something that I saw on iPlayer, which I think sums up precisely what I'm going to be talking about and the state of the BBC and mainstream media, should we say. So basically there was a program I saw, I can't remember the name of it because I was just enraged at the very prospect of it. It was Prince William and David Attenborough. I'm sorry. Prince William the monarch, and David Attenborough looking at solutions to help, preserve the world, stop climate change. What can, David Attenborough and Prince William, who enjoys hunting wildlife for fun, needlessly shooting wildlife, and also goes to these places in a private jet, is looking at solutions to stop climate change. I just pretty much agreed now that yes, whilst there are a couple of things we can do in our personal lives to maybe, mitigate the effects of climate change, we need structural change. What you need to do is push the government, use your influence and your sway to push the government and big companies to make big structural changes. But like I said, I think this sums up a lot of what is wrong with mainstream media at the moment. So I watched the documentary by Kemp and I thought it was interesting, but it could have been better. One thing that I thought was very interesting was showing how EastEnders became popular to begin with, what it was that made it popular. And it was very clear in the interviews that were being done people at the time in 1985 of why they were tuning into EastEnders. It was because of the social realism aspect. A lot of people would say, oh, they talk like we talk. They deal with issues that we have to deal with. It's the everyday and, we can relate to it. And of course, this is a time when EastEnders was very much steeped in social realism. There is this understanding that in the 90s, it moved more towards melodrama and that now it's more centered around sensationalism. Still, out of all the soaps, I would say it is the best. And it is important because it does deal with issue-led storylines. However, they do need to do more. In my opinion, they are not doing enough. At the end of the day, we have been living through 15 years of austerity. I know people might say, oh, we're under a Labour government now. They're shit. And they have said that there need to be difficult decisions being made. I was speaking with my husband the other day and he was talking about how junior doctors are having to Uber now, like work for Uber because they're not being paid enough. Junior doctors, people who have studied their whole life and whose role in society is going to be saving people's lives. They are having to now drive Ubers to make ends meet. How is EastEnders not covering this? How did they not cover this when Ash was in the show as a junior doctor? They showed the pressure on Sonia as an NHS worker, which is great, absolutely true, but talk about privatisation of the NHS, for God's sake. Talk about it. Show what is happening. Of course, this is the BBC, so you probably won't. The time has come for it to stop pussyfooting around certain issues and get into the nitty-gritty of it. Yes, it's all very well talking about racism, colorism, anti-blackness, but what is the point when you're only talking about these things on a personal level and you don't look at the structural issues at play that cause people to have these prejudices and these biases? I already mentioned in another video how EastEnders didn't even bother covering the riots that had happened, and it would have been so easy to have a 2-minute clip just putting the record straight. Yet they have this whole storyline that is centered around racism and colorism and anti-blackness, and it's great. Have those storylines, but you need to look at them and analyze them within a wider context. You can't just point the fingers and say, oh, well, because that person's racist because they're evil. Yes, some evil people are racist, absolutely. But some people are brainwashed. Some people have been genuinely led to believe that immigrants are the cause of their problems and not the government that is in power. And this is where EastEnders needs to step up, in my opinion. This is what it should be doing. So coming back to that David Attenborough, Prince William analogy, I just feel like this is what EastEnders is doing at the moment. And on top of that, when they do issue-based storylines, they have to mix it in with sensationalism. Like, instead of just focusing on George and his struggle with, you know, finding out about his birth parents, etc., and dealing with his racist father, why do we have to throw in him kissing Cindy with that? Why? Denise is having a breakdown. Let's have her husband have an affair. No, let's not look at, you know, the problems with people getting mental health support in this country, which is at crisis point in this country. No. Let's make it about Jack having an affair, and let's have Denise have this breakdown because of this stupid Keanu being killed storyline, which was the disappointment of 2023 for EastEnders. I'm just so annoyed because with the 30th anniversary, we were so invested in the storyline, in the character, in the actors. But yeah, and that's another thing. The acting was much better back then as well. At the moment, I feel like they put looks over acting ability. I'm sorry to say. I see the Hollyoaksification of EastEnders a little bit. Another thing that really pissed me off in the documentary was Sharon, the actress Letitia Dean, saying, oh, you know, at our age, back then, you know, they would have put me in a cardigan in the 80s, you know, they would have put me in a cardigan, blah, 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 with no life and all that stuff. It's good that they're showing women having a life, women in their 50s having a life, and elderly women having a life. That's fine. They showed Pat having a life. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, okay, it was with a married man a couple of times. She didn't have to go for guys that were like children. You know, I've already spoken about how I don't like how the show glorifies relationships between much older women. And I'm not talking like, oh, you know, she's 20 and she's 30 and he's 25. I'm talking she's 50, he's 19. And a lot of people think that I hate the show because I complain so much about it. Just know that I appreciate the show and I appreciate what it is, what an institution it is, and that is why I critique. It's because I want it to improve. I want it to do better. You know, watching out of loyalty doesn't bode well for the state of a show, right? So we want people to tune in because it's good television and it's doing good things and it's getting good messages out there.